Hey you guys, it's Amy Gretchen. Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be showing you Ali Edwards' Story by the Month kit. This is the kit that came out in April, but it is a May themed kit. So I'm just going to show you a little bit of the product or the product that goes in there. So it always comes with a chipboard set, which, you know, I am a huge fan of. And because this is May, this is mom themed, it is self-care themed, it's friend themed. There's just a lot of different options for stories to tell with this kit this month, which is awesome because that's definitely what I look for when it comes to a kit, is how many different kinds of stories can I tell. This is the quote card that always comes in the kit, and now I'm going to just go through some of the cards. So it always comes with some 3x4 and 4x6 cards, and what's really great now about Ali's kits is she used to do where the cards were double-sided. Now the cards are only one-sided, so you get more cards, so you're able to use all of the cards instead of just one, which I really love because most of the time I love both sizes. You can see that those 3x4 cards had a mum and a mom, depending on where you are in the world. So that's great that there's choices for all of us. And then here are some of the 4x6 cards. I like that one that has a list of things, the taking care of me things. So that's a lot of fun. Anyway, you guys, when I was looking through how I really wanted to, or what stories I wanted to tell, I just kept coming back to that chipboard. And also the chipboard is also one of the stamps that says Mama Love. And I wanted to tell a story about being a stay-at-home mom because that is something that I chose to do and have been really grateful for the opportunity to have been able to be a stay-at-home mom, but it's also something that I've had to wrestle with as well. So really grateful for the opportunity to think about that this month and to be able to tell this story. While I was thinking about this story, I remembered these photos that I had taken back in 2009. So these are some old photos, and it was just my girls and I, and it was in May, so it was around Mother's Day. And we were just outside. You know, I love May when all of a sudden you can be outside again because it's springtime. And we were just playing around, taking pictures in front of my camera. So these are all selfies. I was just holding my camera out in front of me. I do that all the time and then just kind of snapping away. And this is definitely the photos that I got. So like I said, I was inspired with this stamp that says Mama Love. And because it's so small, what I wanted to do is I wanted to cut it out with the silhouette. So I've definitely been playing around a lot with the silhouette lately, which I've been having a lot of fun with. If you have this tool, definitely use it. It took me a long time to really embrace it and to know how to use it. So I'm going to be taking the digital version of that stamp and cutting that out with my silhouette, and then I want to add it to the top of my photo. But before I get into all of that, I want to show you how I created this collage in Lightroom. All right, you guys, so I'm going to show you how I created my photo collage, and I especially wanted to show you how I do this in Photoshop, or excuse me, I especially wanted to show you how I do this in Lightroom because Lightroom is the easiest software to create a photo collage. It is just so simple. So if you are familiar with how to do this in Photoshop or Photoshop Elements, I want to show you why you want to choose Lightroom because it is so much easier for this type of thing. It just takes out all of the guesswork for you. All right, so the first thing that I want to do is I want to highlight some photos, or I want to grab some photos that I want to use, and I want to put them in a collection. And the reason why I do this is because it allows you to move photos around easier. If I'm doing it right from the folder, it's a lot harder to move photos around. So I just want to get them on their own collection. So the best way to do that is just to go through. I'm going to highlight some of the photos, and then I'm going to just create a collection for them. So you can see actually these are a lot of old photos that I took. These are from 2009, and when I was thinking about doing this this layout, I thought it would be fun to pull some of these old photos because I remember doing this photo shoot on on a May afternoon, or May evening actually. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click and I'm going to hold the Command or the Control key depending on what machine you're using, and I am just going to click on a whole bunch of the photos. Like I said, I haven't looked at these in quite a while, so I'm not going to spend too much time trying to pick. I'm just kind of looking for some that I've already highlighted, which means that, you know, back in the day when I was editing these were the ones that stood out to me. So I'm just going to grab a few so I can show you how I'm creating them in the collage. And I'm also wanting to choose ones that have the same editing on there as well. So that's something that I'm also looking at while I do this. So you can see here I've got 17 selected. And so I'm going to come down. If you actually don't have this panel open, if it looks like that for you, just come over here to the arrow and you can click on it and then it will open it up. I'm going to come down here to collections and I'm going to hit the plus sign. And then I'm just going to hit create collection and I'm going to call this Mama Love because that's the name of this layout. And I want to make sure my options are clicked or checked for include selected photos. So all these photos that I selected, it's just going to pull into the collection. And collections are really awesome in Lightroom. It's one of the things that I love about Lightroom. So if you are not familiar with it, if you have any questions, you can definitely ask me about them, but I would love to be able to teach you guys more because it's just such a great way to organize your photos. So I'm going to hit create there, and you can see down here under my collections, I've got this Mama Love. And I actually did, I did create it already before I remembered, oh yeah, I promised that I would share my process with you guys. So after I've got it in the collection, I'm just going to highlight that collection. And then I'm going to come over here to the print module. Again, if it's not showing, you can come up to the top and you can see this little arrow. You can click on that arrow and it will show all the options you have here available and the modules. And I'm going to hit the print module. So you can see that what's coming up for me is my 12 of 12 collage. So this is the collage that I've created for my 12 of 12. And this would be really cute also, but this is not what I want to do. What I want to do is make it a 6x8. And because I'm going to be printing it on 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, then I want to make the print onto that. So I'm going to come over here to page setup and I'm going to click page setup. And I want to make sure that I've got the printer that I'm going to be using. So you could just click on it and then select the printer that you want. The size I want to do is going to be letter. I want it to be 8.5 by 11. And then I want it to be portrait. So I don't want it to be horizontal. I want it to be vertical. Then I can come over here to properties. You can see that it's on text. I could click photo or best photo. Premium photo paper glossy is what I've got, but you can see that with my printer, there's just a ton of different options. And then I'm going to click OK. And then I'll click OK again. So now my printer is all set up. So you can see this is actually pretty cute. But like I said again, I actually want this to be 6x8 because I want it to fit in my 6x8 album. So you can choose to do it any size that you want. I just want to make sure you guys realize you have that option. So then what I want to do is I want to come over here to this layout portion. So if you're not seeing the layouts, I just want you to know that there's a whole different options in this panel that you can choose. So you can just click on this layout arrow and then you can get all this information here. So I'm going to come to the page. Actually, no, I'm going to come to the margins first. So because I want it to be 6.5 by 11, then I need to have 2.5 inches total between the left and the right. So on this side and this side. So that is going to be 1.25 on each side. If I want it to be even, it doesn't have to be even because I'm going to cut this out. And then for the top and bottom, I need to subtract 3 inches so that the 11 ends up being 8. And so then that's just going to be 1.5 on each side. And I'm just entering this in right from my keyboard there. So there is just a bit of math, but like I said, you don't necessarily have to do that. So for the page grid, I actually think this is pretty cute with the squares, but there is a few photos where I feel like we'd be cutting some people off, and actually I'm okay with that most of the time. So this might be an option. Now that I'm looking at it, it's pretty cute. You know, because I could move this over and it would just cut off part of her face there. But let's see what it looks like when I move it down to 2 columns. That way I'm getting kind of a horizontal. So that's just a different look there. I just wanted you to know that you've got that option. You could make it even more, you could make it even larger there. But of course I wouldn't suggest that, only because of the orientation of the photo, but you could definitely do that if you wanted. You could actually do more rows as well, and it's just going to shrink down the photos. And the thing that's great about that, you can go in and you can move the photos around so you can make sure that you're getting people's heads in the picture. Now I actually do like this, but it's just a little too tight for me, so I think I will go back to 4 rows. But what's so fun about being able to play around with this page grid is you can change things up and change it back really easily. And it's not, you don't have to do like a clipping mask or anything like that. You can just change things how you like, and then you are done. This cell spacing right here, I just wanted you to be aware, is the spacing that is in between the photos. So if you actually want it to be greater, you could make it a little bit bigger. I tend to like it a little bit smaller, so maybe I'll do 0.05 and see what that looks like, and that's great for me. And this cell size is just letting you know how big this size is right here. So just to give you an indication of how big those photos are going to be in the end. So the next thing that I end up doing, you know, after I've got the layout the way that I think it's going to be, is I'm going to move my photos around and move things around so I feel like it looks the best. One of the things that I'm thinking in my head is that I'm going to have something right here in the middle. I don't know right now. I think it's maybe going to be a cut silhouette piece from one of the stamped digital stamps. So it might be like vellum. It might be, you know, it might be cut out of vellum, or it might be cut out of white. I'm just not entirely sure yet. So I'm thinking that there's going to be something right here. So I'm going to try and eliminate, you know, really going over someone's face. So we'll see if I can do that as I move things around and as I choose photos for this area. This is kind of good because there's not a big head there. So I might end up leaving that there. But one thing I noticed right here is I've got 2 of the same photo. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on this photo, and actually I'm going to come down here to these thumbnails, and I'm going to hit Control, or you could do Command A or D, sorry, and it's going to deselect all of those photos. So when I come over here and I select this photo in the photo grid, it should select it on here, and for some reason it's not. There we go. When I select it, it's selecting it down here, so I know exactly where the photo's at. And because these are the same image, you can see these are the exact same image, I'm going to right click, and then I'm going to click on Remove from Collection. Now that's not going to delete it from my computer or even from Lightroom. It's actually just going to remove it from this collection that I created. And so now you see that I'm down to 16 images. So I'm just going to go through and I'm going to look at these photos and determine, you know, if I like them, if I want to change them up. Like these photos right here, they seem very similar to me. So I'm going to look at which one I like best. And I can either, if I'm not 100% sure I want to totally remove it, I could take it all the way to the bottom. And then it's not going to be in this photo collage. Now I want to show you that if I toggle between the arrows, it's going to show me a collage with more photos. That's because I have 16 photos here, and there's 8 photos on each. So I've got 8 and 8. So if I printed this out, it's going to print out 2 sheets. So I either need to get rid of 8 or I'm going to print out 2 sheets. So I definitely want to remove 8, which is actually a tall order because there are a lot of really fun pictures in here. So I am really loving the photos on this second one here, kind of in the back. So I'm going to do, so like I said, if I click on it up here, it's going to highlight it so I know where it's at. So I'm just going to move this to the first one, and I'm just going to keep doing that. And I'm not even putting them in one way or another. I just really want them towards the top so I can get them in that photo collage. And I'm looking for ones that look very different, ones that are just, you know, a lot of fun, right? I can see that I've got the same photo here, so I'm going to click and remove that. So let me see what I've got here. And I'm not going to take you through this whole process just because this might take me some time to really look at these photos and determine what I want, but I just want to show you this is how I'm creating the collage in Lightroom. It's just really easy to gather all your photos together and then put them in a grid that works for you, and then really print them off. So if this is how I wanted it to look, like I said, I'll probably do a little bit more work off camera. I'll come over here to the print job section or the panel and make sure it's on printer. You could actually just print this to file, which means it would copy this as a JPEG image. So you could maybe then add some text to it or something like that in Photoshop. But I'm going to go ahead and click on printer, and then I can just print it right from Lightroom. It'll just send it right to my printer, and it's that easy. So anyways, that is how I created my collage in Lightroom. All right, you guys, so hopefully that was easy to follow. Like I've mentioned before, it's sometimes difficult to work and speak at the same time. So if you have any questions, please ask them in the comment section below, and I'll definitely answer them for you. So you can see that I went ahead and I put that digital stamp file into Lightroom, or excuse me, into my Silhouette program. And then I just went ahead and I made a cut file from that image and then just sent it to my Silhouette. So a couple things to mention with this. You definitely want to be careful as you're pulling it away from the release paper because it is, or the carrier paper, excuse me, because it is very fragile. But as I was pulling it away, one of the things that I thought would be really fun to do with a file like this that has the outline is to cut it out of different colors, and then you could actually put the different colored cardstocks or even pattern papers inside the outline. So this definitely wouldn't work for what I'm doing today because there's people behind it. But I actually really I thought that that would be actually a lot of fun to, you know, do a scrapbooking page that then you could fill in that outline with different colors. So just something to think about, just another way that you can use a file like this. So now I'm just making sure I've got all the little pieces. I wasn't sure if I wanted to do the insides of like the A and the O, but I definitely decided to do that. So the biggest thing then is to make sure that I don't lose it before I adhere it all down. I'm pulling over the chipboards. I'm just trying to figure out what I want to do and how else I want to embellish this. So this was, I think, maybe the hardest thing about doing this layout is just trying to figure out which of the pieces I wanted to incorporate and how, just because I felt like there was a lot of really great options for sentiments that were on those chipboards and colors as well. So I just wasn't entirely sure what I wanted to do. And my plan, I'd already done my plan, which was my photos and then this silhouette cut. But other than that, I had no idea what I was going to do or how I was going to put this whole layout together. I knew that I wanted some journaling. And so I knew that I'd have to do that on another piece of paper, but I wasn't sure if I was going to do a 3x8 or how I was going to incorporate that. So that's something that I'm thinking about as I'm working as well. You can see that I just went ahead and I used my Tombow Mono adhesive. This is some liquid adhesive to add all the pieces on. I like this liquid adhesive when it comes to things like this because I can just add little dots, and also I have a few minutes to kind of move it around in place if it's not exactly where I want it. Now I can't like put it down, stick it back up and move it to somewhere completely different because I would probably leave a residue of some of the glue. But if you're just moving it slightly just to make sure you're getting it more centered or so it's more straight up and down, that's something that you can do really easily. All right, so when I opened up my album and I saw where this would fit in, I realized that the back side of, well, the last thing that I put in there was a 5x7 piece. And just keeping in mind, I did this 5x7 photo and I added it directly to my album, but I didn't realize that it actually did not fit into my album really well. It sticks out like a 1/2 inch. So after all this, I realized I may have to reprint everything if I don't want it to stick out. But right now it's not that big of a deal because it doesn't stick outside of the binder. It's still protected, but it does stick out of the page protector. So it's not that big of a deal, but it's just, you know, something that I realized when I was 100% and completely done with this layout, which is a little bit of a bummer, but it's totally fine. All right, so one of the other things I realized also, because I did not have a concrete plan, is I was thinking that I would add some of these chipboards, but I just did not format my text well. So I wanted a little bit more space on the top or on the bottom. So you'll see that I'm playing around with this. I knew that I was going to have to reprint it, and I drew the lines because I felt like I wanted, like I always talk about, like more of a grounding. I needed something on there. And you'll see that I just did that to see if I liked it, but I will end up printing out a new one just because I wanted a little bit more space there at the top for a chipboard piece. I also felt like this journaling card needed a little something. It just felt kind of plain and white, which is one of the reasons why I did the outline, but I felt like it needed a little something more. So I grabbed over this 3x4 card that had a pattern on it, and I decided, and it was pretty subtle, not too crazy. I could still use these bright colored chipboards. And so I decided to cut it out and put it on the top and bottom and just see kind of what I thought there. And now you're seeing the piece that I went ahead and reprinted. And you can see that I added a lot more space to the top so that I had an option for some chipboard there. And that on the bottom, I'm going to add the date because I did not do that. I didn't actually type it on there. So I decided to just go ahead and add it right onto the pattern paper. And if I keep going back and forth to the old one that I had printed, it's because I'm just kind of testing it out to make sure that I do actually want to do the black line. That was another thing that I wasn't sure if I wanted to do again once I had the pattern paper on there. But ultimately, I do decide that I just feel like it needs, for some reason, some grounding, even though I had that pattern paper there. So I do go ahead and do that. And instead of having the pattern paper go all the way to the edge, I'm cutting it off so that it's not going to cut off any of those lines. So you can hear that you can see that I've decided to adhere it. I finally made a decision of what I was doing. I do feel like I sort of went back and forth a little bit with this layout, just trying to get the feel right. I think I do that a lot, is just work until it just feels right to me. So I'm just cutting that down a little bit so it's closer to the edge of the text, and playing around with some of those chipboards. So the last thing that I wanted to do, and you can see that I kind of had already started working on them, is I wanted to add just one more thing. And I saw these hearts. I think this came from a past Studio Calico kit. At least these pink ones, the blue ones that are underneath it actually came from one of Ali Edwards' story kits. But I thought the pink would go really well, and I loved I love being able to put that little heart there in the middle there. So then I just have 3 of them to kind of make this triangle and then to just balance everything out together. All right, you guys, I am completely done with this spread. Thank you so much for being here. I really hope that you've been inspired with this kit, and when you get it in your hands, that you will be inspired to tell your own stories. Also, really hope that you will give a photo collage a try, either in Lightroom or in the photo software of your choice. Thank you guys so much for being here, and we will catch you in the next one. Bye.